Well, I was in medical school at the time. I was in my second year of medical school at Wake Forest. My cousin, Lonnie Revels, was at Wake Forest, undergraduate. By that time, Wake Forest had moved from the town of Wake Forest to Winston Salem, so we were in the town together. And we didn't see each other a lot because I didn't have a lot of time being in medical school. But he called me one day and said, "Are you going home this weekend?" And I said, "No." He said, "You got to go home this weekend." And I said, "Why do I got to go home this weekend?" And he said, "Haven't you heard that the Ku Klux Klan are planning a rally?" I said, "I haven't heard anything except gross anatomy, and and how do you tell one disease from another thing?" He says, "You have to go home. Everyone is going to be at home because we're going to teach the Klan a lesson." I said, "I don't have time for that. Besides that, if they ever find out that a medical student was down there rioting, I will be thrown out of medical school, and I've worked too hard to get here." And he said, "Nobody's going to know that you were there. It's going to happen out in the middle of nowhere at nighttime. Who's going to know that you were there?" And so finally, after a long argument, he persuaded me to come. And then as I got here, the town was just swarming like a hive of bees or angry wasps after their nest had been disturbed. And everyone came by and said, "What are you packing?" I said, "What am I packing? What kind of weapon do you have?" I said, "Nothing, my fist and my feet." I guess they're about the only, because we didn't own guns. And he said, "You got to have a weapon." So Lonnie, I don't know where he got it from, but Lonnie arranged for me to have some kind of a shotgun, I think it was. So I wore a raincoat and felt like I was Inspector Trousseau. And so I had my raincoat, and so everyone you passed would open up their jacket and show. Some of them had hand grenades, some of them had all kinds of weapons that who knows where they got them from. But it was clearly an exciting town. We walked up and down the streets, and finally it was time to go to the Klan's meeting. And we went out there, and there was this open field, and there was one car parked in the middle of the field that had some kind of power source, I guess a battery, with one single light bulb on what looked like a radio antenna that just lighted up, and that was the only source of light. And as the hour drew nearer, and everybody anticipated that the Klan would show up in their usual outfit, one or two people came with sheets, but without the thing over their head. The guy that was there by the rear of the automobile said very little. He didn't have anything that looked like a Klan outfit. So the people who had gathered there started saying all kinds of unkind things to him and asking where the Grand Wizard was. The Grand Wizard was supposed to be part of the gathering. Eventually, there were obviously what looked like two sides. There were primarily a group of mostly the Lumbees on one side. I was more naive than brave. I was on the front row with Lonnie, and all of a sudden, the guy who really fired the first shot, he walked up to the gentleman at the back of the car, put what looked like an AK-47 up to the man's neck and said, "Are you prepared to meet God, you SOB?" And the guy did not answer. I wouldn't have had an answer had I been him. So he took the gun away from the guy's neck, put it on the light bulb, and shot the light bulb. And then what sounded like, I imagine, a battle would have been in most any kind of an encounter. There were a zillion shots, and the absolutely amazing thing to me, and I'm a devout Christian, so I think that God's hand was in this. No one was killed. I'm absolutely amazed because it was probably just a few minutes or even maybe just a few seconds, there was intense gunfire, guns going off everywhere. And I'm standing on the front row, anxious to see, dummy me. And all of a sudden, my cousin Lonnie jerked me and says, "Get down!" So we hid between the fender of two cars, and a reporter came rushing around the side and said, "I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys. Don't kill me." And so, I mean, I'd forgotten that I even had a weapon, but we stayed there, and all of a sudden, I mean, they riddled this car, shot out every window, every piece of glass. They shot out all the tires. And then it didn't last very long, the gunfire. And then all of a sudden, towards the back of the field, someone said, "Here comes the Grand Wizard trying to escape." And they don't know whether it was or not, but the car came through, and they riddled that car with just gunfire. And again, absolutely amazing that the people in that car were not injured, but they were not. It just worked out that during the trial for that, was a break in medical school, so I got to go to part of the trial. Well, the trial was mainly, they were trying the Grand Wizard for inciting a riot. The only really great thing that I came out of that, as far as I know, the Klan has never again been active in North Carolina. Of course, it clearly exists. For years in Smithville, there used to be a sign as you entered town, "This is Klan country." Symbolically, what it meant was that the Klan had no power over people. But the best part of the story, really, for me at any rate, so didn't happen there. So I go back to medical school, quiet as I could be. People asked me about the riot down in Pembroke, and I said, "Yeah, I heard about it. I guess the Klan got taught a lesson." And that's about all I would say. I dropped the subject as quickly as I could because I really thought I would be thrown out of medical school. I thought I was rioting. Finally, about a week or so came by, and my cousin Lonnie called me again. He said, "We're in Life magazine." I said, "You are kidding me." And this was way before I understood that there are various editions to a magazine. And I rushed out and bought a copy of Life magazine. And as fortune would have it, the pictures in that issue of Life magazine stopped with Lonnie. Showed a picture of this front row, and it showed Lonnie's picture, but it didn't show my picture. And I thought, "Oh, thank you, Lord. I am off the hook, so I'm not going to get kicked out of medical school." A couple of days later, I had a call from the dean's office. Dr. Carpenter came down and said, "How are you doing, son?" At this time, I did not know that I was the first Native American admitted to medical school at Wake Forest. Dr. Carpenter called me down and said, how are things with you?" And I said, "Wonderful." He said, "Good." He said, "You're from Pembroke, I understand." I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Boy, has had a big riot down there." I said, "I read about it." He said, "Did you go down there?" I said, "Oh, no, sir. I'm so busy with medical school, I wouldn't dare have taken time away from my studies to go to a thing like that." He said, "Would you step around the desk and look at this for me?" So he has a display of Life magazine. And in this edition of Life magazine, the camera came one more click around, and there I stood, clear as day. And he said, "Do you know who this person is? He looks an awful lot like you." I said, "Oh yeah, that's my cousin. People get us mixed up all the time." And the story goes that the dean let Jones leave his office, both knowing that he lied and both knowing that the dean knew that he lied, but didn't say anything to him about it. So it's part of was for a long time part of the tradition at Wake Forest Medical School. They will always tell this story about how Jones went down and then lied to the dean about it, with the dean knowing that he was lying. But he never said anything bad about it. So it made a lot of interesting talk about it. For a little boy who grew up on a tiny little farm at the edge of Pembroke, I've had an amazing life, and I'm just very grateful for that.